Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad, este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad, este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad, este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad, este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Excelente, porque nos está brindando muchos conocimientos.
La verdad este curso me sirvió de harto, una capacitación excelente.
Es todo práctico, se aprende mucho.
Desearles lo mejor, que sigan adelante y que sigan capacitando a los profesionales de todo Tarija.
VirtuallCorp, acompañando tu desarrollo profesional. VirtuallCorp es una institución dedicada al desarrollo profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti. Profesional, con más de 5 años en el mercado nacional e internacional. Nuestros cursos prácticos te acercan a la vida real de los puestos de trabajo, llevando la teoría a la práctica real. Aprende con nosotros con más de 100 formaciones disponibles para ti.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos nuevamente a este seminario que ha sido realizado desde el día de ayer. Hoy es el segundo día y obviamente vamos a continuar con este seminario. Primero que nada, presentarme. Mi nombre es Rubén Hernani. Soy el encargado de dar el seminario el día de hoy, así también como lo fui el día de ayer. Un poquito acerca de la información que ustedes necesitan tener para el día de hoy. Bueno, tengo un poquito más de 17 años de experiencia, 19, si no me equivoco, como profesor, docente y en el área de inglés. He trabajado en varios lugares, tanto como profesor, tanto en colegios como en instituciones que se relacionan con la enseñanza del idioma inglés. También he estado haciendo las veces de coordinador académico, tanto departamental como nacional a nivel Bolivia. y también como director académico en otras instituciones. Bueno, esto me dio la oportunidad de poder, obviamente, trabajar muy de cerca con el Ministerio de Educación y, obviamente, conocer todos los ámbitos en cuanto a ello se refiere, ¿no? Bueno, indicarles que ahora también tengo la oportunidad de poder trabajar en el ámbito de los seminarios y, bueno, pues me alegra mucho estar aquí con ustedes el día de hoy. Bueno, pasemos a lo siguiente. Primero que nada, bienvenidos a todos. Melissa, bienvenida. Algo muy importante, no se olvide siempre comunicarse con los teléfonos que salen en el chat en vivo de YouTube para poder recibir su certificado y, obviamente, si desean las presentaciones o los videos del seminario. Simplemente comuníquense con los números que están saliendo en pantallas y eso es todo, ¿ok? Vamos a establecer algunas reglas para poder trabajar el día de hoy, así como lo hicimos el día de ayer. Primero que nada, lo que necesito es que ustedes puedan comprender de que esto es muy participativo, tiene que ser bastante participativo. ¿Por qué? La razón es muy simple. Al poder participar, ustedes no solamente ganan la experiencia, sino que el aprendizaje es mucho más efectivo. ¿Por qué? Porque ahí ustedes ya pueden trabajar de esa misma manera, pueden hacer los ejemplos, pueden responder a las preguntas y, obviamente, tienen mucha mayor facilidad para trabajar después del seminario con todo lo que han aprendido, ¿ok? Entonces es muy importante que puedan participar. ¿Cómo van a participar? Por el chat de YouTube. ¿De qué manera? Simplemente vamos a ir dando el seminario y apenas podamos tener alguna consulta o alguna petición para que ustedes puedan realizar algún comentario o algo específico, ustedes empiezan a escribir en el chat de YouTube, ¿ok? Eso es algo muy importante que debemos hacer. ¿Por qué? Porque así vamos a tener comunicación completa entre ustedes y mi persona. Bueno, sigamos. Jimmy, bienvenido. Asimismo, si ustedes tienen alguna consulta, justo en ese momento que tengan la consulta, pregunten. ¿Cómo? Escriban su pregunta en el chat de YouTube y yo estoy viendo constantemente la pantalla del chat de YouTube. Por tanto, voy a leer su pregunta y en ese momento voy a aclarar cualquier duda que puedan tener. ¿Ok? Es muy importante comprender que si ustedes tienen alguna duda, la realicen en ese momento. Hagan su pregunta, no al final. ¿Por qué? Porque van a perder el hilo de lo que están aprendiendo por ese motivo. Entonces, simplemente colocan su pregunta en el momento en que así ustedes tengan la duda, ¿ok? Bueno, eso es muy importante para que podamos continuar. Sigamos, entonces ahora vamos a continuar con el seminario, ¿ok? Del Inglés Académico y, obviamente, la redacción de artículos. Vamos a hacer un pequeño resumen de lo que hemos hecho. Ahí, obviamente, todo va a ser en inglés. Cualquier consulta que ustedes puedan tener, lo pueden hacer en inglés o en español. No hay problema, ¿ok? Muchísimas gracias. So let's go back to English and let's start. As I told you, we are going to work with a summary about what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about how we use the formal English. And we said that we use it in academic spaces, in academic places, right? Why? Universities, institutions, other research places, because we use this academic writing, this academic English, to communicate some news or something that we want to research, right? Or we need to understand that always we need to write something that must have a backup in another book. What do I mean? If you are saying or writing something, you needed to paraphrase, to cite, I don't know, the books that you looked for in order to find the information you need. So this is not just thoughts, this is not just opinions. When we talk about academic English, we are talking about many things that we can say, we can show, but always with an argument, always with something that is in your book, in order to say that you first look, you research, you investigate, if I can say that, to research in order to have a solution, to have the right to tell, to say that what you say is true, okay, or to deny something. Always. So that's why we use the academic English. And obviously, to word academic English, we need to start from the very beginning. And to start from the very beginning means to start thinking critically. I mean, to apply the critical thinking. That we said that we have some steps. Yes, they said I will try to remember with you. The first step is just to check, to look for the information, then to read, then to understand. Once you understand, you have to analyze. Once you analyze, you start to to see if it's true or if it's not what you have read. After you did that, you can create one. Those are the 7 steps, right? So you can create your own information. So that is the way. So we can start from the very beginning, yes, but little by little reading and looking for information will be the way that you will show how good you are writing. Now, also we talk about that for writings. When you want to make an academic writing, because you need to create an academic writing, it is important to know how or why do you decide to write, and is to show what you are looking for, to show what you found, right? To show what you found. And it could be national or international, right? You can write about your research, maybe about some opinions about something, but always this is with a backup, as I told you. Always with information behind that you have looked for before giving your personal opinion, okay? So in that way, we have to write, but there are some steps. And in order to write, we need to have cohesion and coherence. Coherence, I mean, it must have or follow some steps, right, in order to write. But for that writing also, you need to have cohesion. That means that the information can flow from the beginning to the end. That is what you need to do, okay? And in that way, how are we going to work with that? This is very simple, right? We need to use connectors first, or linking words. What is a linking word? A linking word is a word that can connect, link, as the name says, two or more sentences, right? So in that way, we have many kind of linking words or connectors. So we have connectors for adding, for contrary to fact, for summarizing, for adding information. And we have already talked about it. We can talk about, for example, what's more, to add information, therefore, to state into a conclusion, maybe, however, to state a contrary to fact opinion, or maybe contrary to fact a investigation or information. Also to talk about, for example, and to sum up, but obviously there are some ones that you can use in academic reading, and some of them that are not being used in academic writing. So, for example, and is not correct to be used in academic writing. Instead of that, you can say what's more, right? Even though, yeah, that it is, for example, in order to state into a conclusion, you cannot say so. You can say as a result, therefore, in that way, right? So those are the academic ways of writing, okay? And we finished with that yesterday. Now, we are going to continue with the next step, which is what you are looking at, watching the screen. It is how to cite and paraphrase correctly. First of all, we need to know about cite and paraphrase. Okay? And that is something that you need to understand very well. When we talk about cite, meaning how to cite, it means that you have to give the credit to the original author when you use their ideas, okay? Their words or their data. What do I mean about with their ideas? Because everything you want to show about your investigation, your researching, needs to have, as I told you, a backup in which you have to look for information. Oh, in that way you can support your information, your own idea, right? So that supported idea must be cited in your paperwork. Yes, it must be cited, okay? Now, could be that you need to check for some information, some words, maybe some data. What do I mean by some data? Some numbers that you need to look for. You didn't investigate, you didn't research those numbers, but you got it in a book. So you need to use that information. So you use it, but you need to cite that book, that information. Yes, you need to cite that information. And that is citing. It means to give credit to the original author when you use their ideas, words, or data. Okay? That is the way. Now, how to cite? Well, let's continue with paraphrasing. Sorry. What is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing means that you have to restart. You have to tell what someone said, but in your own words. I mean, you read about information that you find useful to use in your paperwork. So, but you need you need to say what it really has. So you are going to paraphrase. What does it mean? To use different words, not the same words as the original one. So to use different words, but you have to keep the idea of that information. You have to keep the idea, to keep the meaning, okay? But don't forget, you still need to give the credit of the author. Yes, you need to give the credit. That is another option, okay? So it doesn't matter if you paraphrase or not, you need to cite on TV to give credit to the author. So now you know what is paraphrasing, now you know what is citing, right? Okay, first of all, let me say hello to everybody. Sergio Daniel, hello. Maribel, hello. Milka, hello. Hael, hello. Jimmy, hello. Melissa, hello. Welcome. The ones that just log in. So thank you very much. So let's continue. That is paraphrasing. That is citing. Okay. But there are some steps that you need to follow in order to cite or to paraphrase. Yes, it's not just paraphrasing, I mean, saying the same information, keeping the same information, but with your own words, and just that. No, you need to follow some steps, okay? So, and why do we do that? This is the most important part, because you need to show in your paperwork that you are working honestly and that you are avoiding plagiarism. Yes, debemos evitar el plagio. That's what I mean, right? Avoid plagiarism. So that is why you need to cite or paraphrase, okay? That is the main reason. Now, when we talk about citing, I already told what citing means, but why it is useful, that citing, the one that you are going to write, sorry, in your paperwork. You need to cite because you need to inform, to show, to tell the reader where you got that information, where that information comes from, okay? Where you found that information. Why? Because in order to analyze, in order to support your idea, you look for that information. So you need to tell the reader that this information is the one that you use to support your idea, and you can find it in this book or in that book, right? So, or in that place, because now you can cite not only books, but also you can add pages, articles, many things, okay? So, in that way, you have to tell the reader where you found that information. Now, what do we need to show in your citing? You need to write the author's name. Yes, you need to write the author's name. I mean, the author of the book in which you found the information to support your idea, right? So the author's name, obviously the year in which it was written, and if it's necessary, the page and the number of the page, right? I mean, the page number. Sometimes it is necessary, so you need to write it down. So that is the way we cite. We give the information of the place you found the information to support your argument, right? That it is. Now, there are different kind of styles. Yes, you can find, if you look through internet, if you surf it, you can find different kind of styles for text citation. In this way, the most common and the principal, the main one, is the APA style. Yes, that it is, it's the APA style. So when we talk about the APA style, this is divided into, okay, the way you're going to cite your text. So the first is the parenthetical citation, okay? Students often learn better through interaction. Smith 22. That is a way of citing your information. I mean, first you talk about the information you got from that book or article, and then in parentheses, you said you write the author and obviously the year. If it's necessary, the page. But what happened with the narrative citation? It is a little bit different. In the narrative citation, you have to name first the person, the author, and as if it were part of what you are doing. So according to Smith 2022 argues that students learn better through information. If you're right, if you realize you are making the author of the book participate in your writing. But in the other one, you don't let him participate. You just tell the idea and you say that someone said that over the year. So that is the parenthetical citation and the narrative citation, okay? Please do not forget that. Let's continue. We have here a reference, a list example of the APA, the 7th edition. This is the last edition. I mean, there are many editions, right? So for example, Smith, comma, and the name and the year 2022. Motivation online learning, Cambridge University Press. If you realize you are working with the name of the author, the year of the edition of the book, of the writing, of the article, whatever you need to find information in, and the word, the name of the book, motivation and online learning. Cambridge University Press means who printed, where you printed, right? Cambridge University Press. Look at this. The author, the year, the title, and the publication data. If it's something that you found on the internet, on Google Scholar or whatever, use the URL for digital resources. That means you write everything, author, year, title, and obviously the publication for digital resources. I mean, the URL, okay? The link, in other words, in which you found the information. So that is what you need to do. At the end of the paper, you need to write all the information. I have to be clear with you. You can say, for example, according to Smith, students learn better in an online way. You are citing Smith 2022, but at the end of the paper, at the end of the page, you need to include all the information. Which information? The information that I'm just giving you. Smith J 2022 Motivation Online Learning, Cambridge University Press. That's what you need to write down at the end, right at the end of the paper. Okay, you need to add all the information. Okay. What happened with paraphrasing? As I told you, paraphrasing means expressing the same idea in different words. Yes, but you need to keep the meaning, keep the meaning of the resource, okay? Because you need to credit the resource. So you can, in other words, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes when you want to understand something, we read an article, we need to read a paragraph, and then we retell it in our own words in order to know if we understood what we just have read. So that is what you need to do. You read, you understand, you paraphrase with your own words, keeping the idea of the author's paragraph, and that's it. That is paraphrasing. To say the same, to maintain the same meaning of the original one, but expressing them with your own words, different words, okay? in that way. So, sorry, yeah, in that way. Something important that you have to do and not to do. If you are paraphrasing, do not copy the exact sentence. Yes? As I told you, it is paraphrasing. You need to look, you need to share the same information, but in your own words. So it doesn't mean that you have to copy, right? You do not have to copy if it's paraphrasing, unless you want to maintain everything in the same way, which is possible too, yes. But to do that, you need to copy as the author wrote in its book or article, wherever you found the information, using quotation marks. Quotation marks, okay? Quotation marks. So, means entre comillas, if you want to say. So, you need to quote that. This one, look at this one, right? In that way, that means when you are quoting, that means that the reader is gonna realize that you just copy it in the same way the first author did, because you needed to maintain the exact words, to keep the exact words. So he's going to realize that you didn't write that because it is in quotations, and he will say, okay, there is a, okay, this is not his thoughts, this is not what he said, but this is the information that he needed to add because it might be important. So he's gonna read, but obviously you need to cite where you found that information, right? So you can do that. If you are paraphrasing, please, when you say change just a few words, it doesn't mean that you are paraphrasing. You do not change just a few words. That is not paraphrasing. I mean, instead of saying as a result, you're gonna write therefore, and that's it. It's different. No, it is not. It is not. You need to change it completely. You need to write what you understood in your own words. That is paraphrasing. It's not just changing some words. Okay? So do not copy the exact sentence unless you are trying to maintain everything intact by quotation marks. Do not change just a few words. You need to change everything, all the words, but keeping the same idea. That is paraphrasing. Okay? What you can do? You can change the sentence structure, yes, because you are changing everything, right? You are giving the idea in your own words, so you can change the sentence structure. That is for sure. You can use synonyms, yes, obviously. We need to use synonyms. Why? Why do we need to use synonyms? Because you are paraphrasing. I mean, how you're gonna say what the original text said? So that is. You need to keep the same meaning. Yes, what do I mean by keeping the same meaning? That it needs to have the same idea. What you have just paraphrased or wrote must keep the same idea of the original one. That is what it means, okay? That is very important. Now, according to that, we have here how we can paraphrase. Look, We have an original text. This is technology can enhance students' motivation if used interactively in the classroom. Who said that? Brown 2021. Look at that. It's the original text. So it is in quotation marks. Look at those. At the very beginning, at the very end, right? So you are using the quotation marks because you are rewriting what you found in other book or in other source. Now, here I have the incorrect paraphrasing. Why? Because it's too similar. I mean, very, very similar to the first one. That's what it means. And it says, technology can improve motivation when it is used interactively in class. Brown 2021. It is incorrect. Why is it incorrect? Because it is almost similar. Technology can, instead of enhance, improve. Students' motivation. When it is, if it's used. Interactivity in class, in the classroom. So it's almost similar. So that is not correct. That is not paraphrasing. I don't know what it can be. It is just plagiarism, right? So it is not correct. But what happened if we paraphrase in this way? Brown 2021 suggests that using technology in interactive ways can increase students' motivation to learn. Oh, I'm saying specifically the same. Technology can enhance student motivation if used interactively in the classroom. Brown one suggests that using technology in interactive ways can increase students' motivation to learn. There's missing an S. Brown suggests. Okay, sorry. That is the way. I hope you understood this. Do you have any questions so far? ¿Tienen alguna consulta hasta acá? Before going to quoting versus paraphrasing. Do you have any question? Okay. Mientras tanto, mientras ustedes deseen escribir. Primero que nada, decirles de que pueden realizar o contactarse con los números que van a salir en el chat en vivo de YouTube, porque de esa manera van a poder recibir sus certificados, o si desean la presentación o el video, también lo pueden hacer. ¿Ok? Simplemente comuníquense con los teléfonos que tienen en el chat en vivo de YouTube. ¿Ok? Let's continue. What is the difference between quoting and paraphrasing? When we use quoting, that means when you copy the text as it is in your paperwork. Quoting means using the exact words from the author, from the original. Yes, that is quoting, using the same exact words of the original in your paperwork. And it must be in quotation marks, right? Use your own words to restate the idea. That is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means to read the original idea, then to rewrite that idea in your own words, not using the author's words, okay? This paraphrasing, do not use quotation marks. Yes, do not use quotation marks because you're paraphrasing, because you're using your own words. That's why it doesn't have or it doesn't need quotation marks. But what happened in quoting? Yes, you use quotation mark because you are copying the exact words of the original one, right? For example, learning learning is a social process. Who said that? Vygotsky, right? So learning is a social process. It's in quotation marks, and you can see that the information of the place I look for that information is there. Vygotsky, 1978, page 85. If I want to be curious, I go to Vygotsky's book, and I found that it is true, right? Now, here it says another one, paraphrasing. Vygotsky, 1978, argued that learning happens through social interaction. It's completely different, yes. He says that learning happens through social interaction, which is completely different than say learning is a social process. But guess what? Both of them keep the same idea. Learning is a social process, yes, because learning means to be interacting with another person. That interaction means socializing. That socializing is a process, so it is a social process. In the same way, we are saying that learning happens through social interaction. Yes, when I start interacting with another person, there it begins learning, starts learning. In any situation, even though you're just talking, it means that it is working with that, okay? Now, I hope it is completely clear, because this is very important. When you start working with your paperwork or writing a paperwork, you need to look for a lot of information in order to use them as a backup or in order to state an argument, right? Yes. So in that way, you need to cite, maybe doing summaries, maybe paraphrasing, or maybe just quoting, but you have to do it, okay? So that is very, very important. Now let's continue. Here we have read or added some tips that we need to show this with you. So read, understand, close the book, rewrite. Oh, when you want to paraphrase, this is a good tip here that you can use in order to have a good paraphrasing. First, read the information you need to use. Read. It doesn't mean that just read once. No, you can read once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It depends on how well you understand. After that, you need to understand. So to understand, you need to read maybe once or twice. So once you understood, you have to close the book, close the source, and then rewrite what you understood using your own words. If you follow this tip, you will find out very easy to paraphrase. Yes, you'll find out very easy to paraphrase. Okay? Don't forget about it. Don't forget about it. Read in order to understand. You can read many times. If you are an expert, you just need to read once. Perfect. Then close the book and rewrite. Most of the time, we need to read more than once, but there is no problem, right? The main point is to understand the information you need to to use as a source, right? After you read, you understand, you close, and you start writing or rewriting, note taking using keywords. Yes. What does it mean? You need to look and find out in the original text some keywords. What is a keyword? I'm sure you know, but let's try to understand what a keyword is. Keywords are those specific words that are the most important and that keep the specific information you are looking for. The most important words in the reading. Those are the keywords, the ones that get the information you really need. So you have to read, understand, obviously look for those keywords, close the book and start rewriting, but using those keywords. It's obviously you need to use it. Now, I told you you have to use different words, yeah? So you have to look for synonyms of those keywords. Sometimes you will find it difficult you will find difficult to find, if I can be redundant, to find the word. If it's not possible, okay, you can use one or two words, but the rest must be completely different. I mean, you can change almost everything, okay? Maybe you can maintain the keywords. Yeah, if you look for synonyms, good. But if not, keep the keywords, but the rest must be completely different. That is what I need. Practice. Oh, yes. Practice showing academic sentences first. What do I mean by practice short academic sentences first? Once you start reading, understanding, closing the book, looking for the keywords and rewriting, once you did your paraphrasing, you have to read again, reread it, if I can say that, and see if it is academically. If you are not using colloquial words, oh yeah. So you rewrite what you read or reread what you just have written, and you find, oh, okay, this is not good because I am using two simple words, so that is not the way I have to work with that. So I need to change this, and you have to continue working with it. So rewrite it one, twice, three times until you get the specific and right words of your paraphrasing in order to add it in your paperwork, right? And the most important part, please always cite your source. Cite your source. Don't just write the information you look for and that's it, because that information is not yours. You need to be conscious that it is not yours, that you found that information in another source. So in order to keep the source, in order to be, I don't know, faithful with your own values, you need to cite the source. You need to say, this is not my thought, this is not my argument, this is something that I needed from that book, and this person wrote that paragraph, and I need to use that paragraph, but I am saying who did it. So I'm keeping that I am, okay, that I am not just doing plagiarism. That is very important, okay? Now let's continue. How to write summaries and abstracts. Oh, ho, 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 ho. We're gonna write summaries and abstract, but first, I want you to start working with an example, okay? Well, in this time, I would like to start working with something important for you to understand and practice. I'm thinking about something specifically, something just maybe something very, very easy. Here I have it. I have many things here. I'm gonna look for some information so you can use it. You can use it, and you can start working with it. So let me see. Let me see. Here I have it. Yeah, this is. Since we are talking about English, so I'm gonna show you something in English, okay? That is for sure. Okay, so I will show it to you, and I want you to check it, just to check it. And I want you to paraphrase, okay? I want you to paraphrase. It's gonna be very easy, something very short, but you need to paraphrase, okay? So I'm gonna show you something and you need to paraphrase. It's something very easy, but you have to do it, please. And I will tell you in Spanish. Lo que vamos a hacer ahora es un ejercicio muy fácil. Les voy a mostrar un pequeño párrafo, un párrafo chiquitito, y ustedes lo tienen que parafrasear, ¿ok? Estoy buscando justamente algo que sea cortito, pequeño, que no sea de mucho tiempo. A ver. Vamos a ver, estamos buscando uno. This one. Yeah, I think that is good. Let's see. I need to do something very, very. This one. This is the correct one. I will show you a part of a book that talks about principles of language learning and teaching. This is the 5th edition from Brown. Okay, I am citing the source just in case. I want to be very specific with that. So I want to stop sharing because I want to share this other with you. Don't worry. Yeah, look at that. So I want you to look at that. You will see in a minute. You will see in a minute. Don't worry. That it is. I'm showing this to you. That it is. So I want you to read this research finding. It's only this, not the next paragraph. I will read this for you, research findings. That's what it says. Research findings. There is wide evidence of children's ability to comprehend quantitatively more language than they can produce. That, only that little sentence. There is wide evidence of children's ability to comprehend quantitatively more language that they can produce. The first one. Please, I want you to paraphrase, quiero que parafraseen that sentence. There is wide evidence of children's ability to comprehend quantitatively more language that they can produce. Only that, solo eso, no the next. The same is true for adults? No, nothing to work with it. Just the first sentence. Please rewrite it, paraphrase it in your own words. Parafraseen, por favor, esa pequeña oración en sus propias palabras. Escríbanlo en el chat en vivo de YouTube. Please do it. Voy a esperar un poquitito. Por favor, empiecen. Háganlo, por favor. Es muy importante que ustedes trabajen con el parafraseo. Así ustedes tendrán la experiencia y será mucho más fácil cuando ya empiecen a trabajar ustedes con sus paperworks, ¿ok? Por favor, empiecen. Parafraseen esa pequeña parte. Voy a volver a decirles. There is wide evidence of children's ability to comprehend quantitatively more language than they can produce. Solo eso. Por favor, empiecen a parafrasear. Yo espero mientras tanto, voy a pedirles por favor que no se olviden comunicarse con los números que aparecen en el chat en vivo de YouTube para que puedan ustedes adquirir sus certificados o los videos o la presentación de este seminario. Por favor, solo deben comunicarse y eso es todo, ¿ok? Escribir y eso es todo. Entonces, no se olviden de hacerlo. Por favor, me gustaría que ustedes empiecen a trabajar un poquitito con esto. There is wide evidence of children's ability to comprehend quantitatively more language that they can produce. Solo eso, por favor. Empiecen. Vamos. Enseguida volvemos a la diapositiva, pero lo que yo quiero es que hagan esto. Por favor, parafraseen. Yo sé que es muy fácil para ustedes hacerlo. Solamente lean 1 o 2 veces, comprendan y luego escríbanlo en sus propias palabras, ¿ok? Vamos, yo sé que pueden hacer. Acá tenemos uno de Meli. Thank you very much. It says, research strongly suggests that children comprehend much more language than they can express. Excellent. Why this is very good? Because she has identified some keywords, and one keyword is comprehend. Maybe we can use understand, but it is in the same way. Comprehend is the same. Children, right? Very good. What else? More language they can express. It's exactly what it is saying there, but with other words. Very good. Melly, thank you very much. I am very proud of you. That is what you need to do. That is paraphrasing. That is paraphrasing. Do you understand? That is the way we need to work when you want to cite. And obviously you need to cite. You do your citation. It says Brown, Principles of Language Learning and Teaching, the 5th edition, right? So just that. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, I will go back to the presentation. So if anybody else wants to add, do it. Si alguien más quiere añadir el parafraseo, perfecto. Con todo gusto, ¿ok? Okay, super. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue. You know, I feel very proud because you're learning. That is the way. That is the way I wanted you to start working with. Esa es la manera en que uno tiene que aprender, ¿me entienden? Ahora el aprendizaje no es simplemente escuchar, ahora el aprendizaje es participar, crear experiencia, crear práctica, interactive learning, okay? Thank you very much, Mel. So, let's continue. We already finished with this, always cite the source. Now, let's continue working with how to write summaries and abstracts. Okay, what is a summary? What is an abstract? What is it saying? Okay, here we have it. Not only the summary, but also the paragraph give us shorter versions of longer texts. Maybe you won't understand. Said, what? Yes. When we want to express about what a book, an article, an essay, I don't know, says, you need to write a shorter version of a longer text, okay? In which obviously it keeps what the most important aspects of that. Juan, ¿cómo estás? Buenas tardes. Bienvenido. Now, let's continue. Also, the summary and the abstract work, but for different purposes. Yes, you use for different purposes, as it says, right? Now, something important. They are written in different ways. Yes, they are written in different ways. Okay, so let's check about the difference. First, what is a summary? A summary gives the main idea of a text in your own words, but the most important, without opinions, examples, or details showing understanding and comprehension. So, again, a summary is a short text that gives you the main idea of a longer text in your own words, avoiding opinions, examples, and details, showing just understanding and comprehension, okay? That it is. That is a summary. Again, it's a shorter text that gives the main idea of a longer text, but avoiding opinions or examples and details, showing, obviously, understanding and comprehension. That's what you need to do, okay? The steps of a summary. First, you need to read the text carefully, very carefully, and identify the main idea. Yes, you need to identify the main idea. How do you identify the main idea? Most of the time, the main idea is in the first part of the sentences. I mean the paragraph, in introductory paragraph. So, or if it's an essay, right? So you have to identify the main idea. Okay. Once you identified what the main idea is of that longer text, you need to start underlining the key points, the key words. So underline, this is a keyword, this is another keyword. Important this part, keywords, right? So you start finding the most important points, right? If there are examples or repetitions, just omit them. Yeah, because in a longer text, you will find a lot of examples and even you may find some repetitions, which it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen, but you'll find so, but you need to avoid them, okay? Omit them. I mean, it's not necessary to use them in your summary. Now, once you read the text, once you have identified the main idea, once you have underlined the key points, once you have omitted the examples and repetitions, now you have to use your own words to write your summary. Please do not copy. That is not a summary. I told you, and I'm going to tell you as many times as I can. Please do not use the same words. Use your own words, different words, synonyms, etc. But you need to write it without copying. Okay? Without copying. That it is. Okay? So this is very important. Now, once you wrote your own words, once you did it, once you finish, you have to write in third person and use the present tense. Yes, that is very important. Write in third person and use present tense. I mean, you cannot you cannot write in first person. You cannot say, oh, I understand that, I believe that, I suggest that. No, that is not, because you are not suggesting, because there's another person who wrote that. So you're just copying the main idea and writing that in your own words. Okay? For that reason, you have to write always in third person. It is established, it is, no he is, no she is. In third person means using it, right? the pronoun that we use for objects, for ideas. It is established, it is suggested, it is told, okay? And always the present tense, because you are summarizing. You are not retelling an experience. You are not doing a narrative expression. No, nothing of those. Use other synonyms. Yes, exactly that. Super. Use other synonyms. That it is. You need to use other synonyms, right? And write it always in the third person. Something important. Don't forget that it's just a summary. I mean, short. You need to keep it short. What do I mean by short? 1/3 of the original text. If the original text has 4 paragraphs, I mean, your summary must have just 1. Obviously, you're not going to summarize 4 paragraphs, right? If it's, I mean, I don't know, 20 pages, your summary will be just 2 or more, no more than that, right? So you need to keep it short, write the main point. That's why you are underlining and identifying the keywords, the key points, right? So that's why, okay? Those are the steps to write a summary, okay? Now, the structure. I'm gonna write everything so you can have it. Yeah, so first the structure. Part and what to include. First, the opening sentence, the title, the author, the main topic is what you need to include in the opening sentence. In the body, you need to write the key ideas in logical order. The key ideas in logical order. I mean, in the way you have been identifying the keywords in the original text. Then you have to write a closing sentence. That means the main conclusion. It says optional. Yeah, optional because sometimes you don't need it, but there are some others that you really need to. Okay? So in that way, don't forget, you have to write the opening sentence in which you have to include the title, the author, the main topic, and then the body must contain the key ideas in a logical order. And if it's possible, you have to write a closing sentence in which you need to write the main conclusion. Okay? That is the way you need to work with a summary. I have here an example. Okay? The example in the original text, technology plays a major role in education today. It allows teachers to create interactive lessons, helps students access materials easily, and supports distance learning. However, it also requires proper training and resources. That is the original text. Now, let's go to the summary. What does the summary say? Oh, sorry. What does the summary say? The text explains that technology improves teaching and learning through interactive tools and accessibility. Through it depends on adequate teacher training. What that means? I am looking for the key points. I cited the text. I'm not writing the author, so I'm not saying the author, right? And it is very short. So that is the way we need to write, okay? Now, here comes your participation. Ahora viene su participación, okay? What are we going to do? I want you to read this same original text, el mismo texto. Technology plays a major role in education today. It allows teachers to create interactive lessons, helps students access materials easily, and supports distance learning. However, it also requires proper training and resources. Read as many times as you want the original text, and I want you to write your own summary. Por favor, escriban su propio resumen, su propio summary, ¿ok? Por favor, su propio summary. Utilicen los key points, identify the key points, and then do it, okay? Please, it's very important that I told you it's better to participate, to create, and then to get experience in order to do it better the next time, okay? Please do it. Estaré esperando. Hagan su propio resumen, okay? Por favor. Then we're gonna run. Mientras tanto, mientras ustedes están haciendo su propio resumen, you can do it in English or if you want in Spanish. Okay, no hay problema. But do it. Mientras tanto, decirles que pueden comunicarse con los teléfonos que salen en el chat en vivo para poder obtener sus respectivos certificados y cualquier otro material extra que puedan necesitar, como la presentación, el video del seminario, ¿ok? Simplemente pueden comunicarse. Asimismo, decirles que cualquier duda que puedan tener, no se olviden escribir en este momento en el chat en vivo de YouTube para que yo pueda leerlo y así pueda eliminar esa duda, ¿ok? O responder esa pregunta. Vamos, el mismo texto. This one. Read and write the summary. Hagamos un pequeño resumen, ¿ok? Please do it. Meanwhile, I'll be cleaning my glasses. That is. Oh, better. Ah, here I have it. Today, technology is a great opportunity to reach education to students. Okay, okay, that is a good one. Teachers integrate technological tools to facilitate and support students in distance learning. This is better, you know? Teachers integrate technological tools to facilitate and support students in distance learning. Great, excellent. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to teacher Rutia and Sergio. That is a good way of writing a summary. Thank you very much. If you can continue working with it, please do it. I will be very happy to read more. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue. Oh, Jimmy, sorry, Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy, thank you very much. Jimmy and Sergio, thank you very much as well. Okay. Let's continue. Let's go to the abstract. What is the abstract? This is very important. The abstract is a brief overview of an academic paper or research article. It summarizes the whole study, the purpose, the methods, the results, and conclusions, so readers can quickly understand what the paper is about. I think with this explanation now, you understand the difference between a summary and an abstract. An abstract is another summary, but the abstract is specifically for summarizing, researching articles. Yes. What do I mean researching articles or academic papers? I'm talking about technological article, researching articles, could be theses, monographies, thesinas, any other ones, okay, in which you are showing research. That it is. So, what is the difference? Because in the abstract, you need to summarize the purpose, the methods, the results, and the conclusion. What is the purpose of your researching? What methods did you use, right? The results that you got and the conclusions that researching paper or research article or academic paper have, right? What conclusion they came up with. in order that the reader can understand what is the whole academic paper about. Okay, or what the whole academic paper is about, sorry. So that is the way we use the abstract. While a summary is just the most important information of any reading, right? So that is the difference. So now you know what's the difference between the summary and the abstract, okay? Now, what are the steps? We also have steps for writing an abstract. Generally, the person who writes an abstract is the same person who works in the academic paper or in the research paper, right? So in that way, you have to write the paper first. You cannot summarize what you haven't written yet. So you need to write the paper first. Once you did, you have to identify the key elements. Yes, the key elements, the most important parts, right? Which are those key elements? The purpose or aim of the study. Okay. El propósito del estudio, de la investigación, right? The methods, sorry, and the approach. I mean, in other words, if the academic paper is I don't know, quantitative, qualitative, or quantitative, I don't know. It will depend on how we do. Also, what are the methods, the approach, the results and the findings, right? Results or findings. What are the conclusions as well, right? Now, the implications that you get after doing your research paper, right? All of that you need to include in your abstract, okay? But once you identified all those elements, you need to write 1 or 2 sentences for each part. Oh, that is important. So for each part, purpose, methods, etc., you need to write 1 or 2 sentences for each of those parts. Okay? That is very important. You have to use past tense in order to show your methods or results, and results, not or. And present tense for general statements. That's another difference, right? Because in summaries, you got to use always present, only presents, right? So that is what you need to work with. Use past tense for methods and results, but present tense for general statements, okay? So that is very important. Avoid citations, abbreviations, and quotations. Yes, in an abstract, you must not find citations, abbreviations, and quotations. You must not find it because that is a specific information that you need to find it in the academic paper, not in the abstract. Don't forget that the abstract is a summary of your paperwork. In this case, it's a summary with all those specific results, those specific, let's say, ways of writing, okay? So that is the way you need to use or to write the paper, the abstract. Avoid citations, abbreviations, and quotations. What is the length? So from 150 to 250 words, depending on journal or institution. Yeah, but that is more or less, okay? Sometimes it's very difficult to write it, but once you get the idea, once you get the experience, it becomes very easy to do it, okay? So the length is that, don't forget, okay? That is very important for you. So before going to the next one, don't forget, in the summary, you need to look for the main idea, look for the keywords, and look for the conclusion, right? It's just that, as easy as it is. But in the abstract, that is done for academic research, academic papers, you need to identify the key elements after you have written the paper work, obviously. You have to identify the key elements. You need to write down the purpose or aim of the study, the methods, the approach, the results or findings, and the conclusion, or if it's important, the implications that it may have. So all of that, you need to write it using maybe 1 or 2 sentences for each part. For the purpose, 1 or 2 sentences. For the methods, 1 or 2 sentences. The approach, 1 or 2 sentences, etc. So, and that is the way you need to use to write this abstract, okay? Now, how you write it? Using past tense for methods and results. Past tense. It doesn't say simple past. Past tenses. Any past tenses for methods and results, but you need to use the present tense for general statements, okay? General statements. Avoid citations, abbreviations, and quotations. Important. And you have the length. Obviously, you can use write 100, 250 words, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but not too more. I mean, you cannot write 500 words, maybe 250, 260, maybe, according to the rules that you have in order to write the paperwork. I think that is the best way to tell you about the length. You need to look for the rules that you have to write your paperwork. Maybe you are doing a thesis, you need more than 250. Maybe you need a monography, you need just 250 words, or maybe 150. So it will depend on the paper, an academic paper that you are doing, okay, that you are working with or working in, okay? Please don't forget that. Let's continue. Now, here we have, for the background or purpose, the question that you need to ask yourself to answer and write it in the abstract is, what is the study about? This is the first background question. What is the study about? Okay, you answer that question and you're gonna find the purpose. I mean the background. Why is it important? Why is it important? It's important because of this. You answer that question and you are writing the purpose in the background, right? Now, I have an example. This study examines the impact of online learning on motivation. The impact of online learning on motivation. Yeah, maybe if you are motivated or not, or, well, okay, that's your research, right? Methods. To write methods. The good question is, how was the research conducted? It was qualitative, it was this, it was that, etc., right? So you can write the methods. Now, a survey was administered to 100 university students. Okay, a survey, the methods, right? The results, what was found? What did you find? The result indicate a positive relationship between flexibility and motivation. That's what you found. You have to write. And what does that result mean? That is the conclusion. Findings suggests that interactive methods enhance learning outcomes. just the way you started with the purpose, right? It's the same, but with other words. So this is the way. Maybe that is the way you want to write. Maybe you can take a picture, or maybe just write it in a notebook. But that is the way you need to write an academic, an abstract. You need to have the background, purpose, methods, results, conclusion. For that, you need to answer those questions. What is the study about? Why is it important? How was the research conducted? What was found? What does it mean? You can write all of them, and you're going to have a good abstract. Okay, I think that is very important. Here I have an example. Let's read this example. It says, this study explores the impact of online learning on university students' motivation. A questionnaire was distributed among 150 students who identified key motivational factors. Oh. Results show that flexibility and teacher feedback significantly affect engagement. These findings suggest that universities should integrate more interactive and feedback-based strategies in virtual learning environments. What it says here is true, right? But look at that. That is the way you can write an abstract, okay? Because you are giving specific information about the purpose, what you have used, the results, and the conclusion that you came up, okay? Good. So that is just feedback strategies in virtual learning environment. So there is a way to use or to write an abstract, okay? I think this is completely understood. Obviously, I cannot tell you to do an example. Why not? Because in order to write an abstract, you need to read a paper work, an academic paper. And an academic paper is obviously a little bit longer, and we don't have enough time to do that. But that's why I have this example, and I want you to do the same, but obviously by your own, okay? By your own. Now, we have here the differences between the summary and abstract. So for the summary, what is the purpose? To show understanding of another text. For the abstract, is summarize your own research or article. The content, you have to write just the main ideas or arguments in the summary. In the abstract, you have to write the purpose, method, results, and conclusion. That is the difference between a summary and abstract. The audience, in the summary, it could be teachers or classmates, but in the abstract, we have researchers and reviewers. Researchers, sorry, there's an R that is missing there. The length, in the summary is short. In the abstract could be that number of words. The tense, in the summary is always present, but in the abstract you can use past and present. I told you, any kind of past and present. Now, in the citations, in the summary, maybe, but it is not. I mean, I can tell you that it's better not to do it because it's just a summary. And in the abstract, you never used citations, okay? Never. That is what you need to be sure about, okay? That is the way. So that is the difference between a summary and abstract. Now you know more about it. Let's continue. If you don't have any question, we're gonna go to the next step, okay? The next step will be reading comprehension of scientific articles. So before jumping to this new part, I want you to tell me if you have any question. Si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor, realícenla ahora, ¿ok? Para que podamos resolverla y si no, continuamos. Mientras tanto, déjenme decirles que no se olviden llamar a los números que ya están en pantallas en el chat en vivo de YouTube para que ustedes puedan, obviamente, obtener sus certificados y todo aquello adicional que deseen tener. ¿Ok? Let's continue. There is no question at all. So, reading comprehension of scientific articles. Let's start working with that. What is that? It's the ability to understand, to get them an idea, right? And to interpret. Research-based text, written in formal academic English. That is the difference. I mean, comprehension of reading articles or scientific articles means that you have the ability to understand, to analyze, and to interpret, right? Any kind of academic texts, reading obviously in formal-based academic English, okay? So, what is the main way to grasp the structure, to go through the structure, the purpose, and logic of the scientific paper, to understand it in all its contexts? That's what it means, all of that, okay? That is the way you need to work with, the ability to understand academic papers. In order to understand or have a very good reading comprehension of scientific articles, you need first to identify the key components of a research paper. Yes. Which are the components, the problem, the method, the results, and the conclusion? Those are, okay? Sorry. So, to identify the key components, that is the most important part. Once you have identified, you need to understand the complex academic vocabulary and technical terms. Yes, you need to understand the technical terms, okay? In a paperwork, you won't find easy vocabulary. Why? Because it is an academic paper. It is a research, so you're going to find a lot of technical words. Yes, technical terms, a lot of academic vocabulary, and you need to be familiarized with that. How are you going to be familiarized with technical vocabulary and academic writing? By writing it, by reading it. You need to read all of that in order to find, easy the vocabulary, the academic vocabulary in any research paper. Academical or technical terms in any research paper only by reading, by getting deep into that information. That is the only way you can learn the correct vocabulary, okay? So, then it says, critically evaluate the reliability and significance of the information. Yes. What do I mean? Once you have identified all the research paper problems, methods, etc., and once you understood the technical terms, you will be able to evaluate, to criticize, to understand and analyze the reliability and the significance of the information you have just read. Why critically? Because you can say if what you are reading is true, is not, or maybe it's missing some things, or it's not saying what you are expecting, right? Anyway, so that is the way, okay? After you critically evaluate the reading, you can extract, you can obtain the relevant information of that academic text, academic paper, maybe a summary or a research project, any other one, okay? That's why I say academic paper. So once you have already followed those steps, you will be able to extract the information you need. Why? Because you need to identify what they are talking about. You need to identify what it is talking about. I mean, the paper is talking about. You need to identify, to understand all the terms in order to get the original idea of the paperwork. Then you have to evaluate, to analyze if that information is important for you. And is it important? Is it relevant? You need to extract that information because that's what you were needing. You needed, sorry, is what you need. So is what you want to use and the one that you're gonna cite, right? So that's why you need to follow those 4 steps, okay? Most scientific articles follow and understand a standard structure known as IMRD. Yes. What is that? The scientific article has an introduction, the I, an introduction. Then it has a method, the M. Then it has a result, the R. And it has a discussion or conclusion. That is the acronym for I, introduction, M, method, R, result, D, discussion or conclusion. Okay? This is very important. Let's start working. To work with each part of this IMRD, I have created this little chart in order to show you how you work with those, okay? So in the first section, it means the introduction part. The function is to present the research problem, background, and objectives. Yes, in the introduction, you have to present the research problem, the background, and the information, the objective, sorry. Want to know how to identify them? Yes, the key questions are, what is the topic? Why is it important? What is the hypothesis? If you answer those 3 questions, obviously you will have the function done, right? Then we have the method. What is the method? It describes how the research was conducted. Yes, it identifies how the research was conducted. How was, in order to find out information, you can answer yourselves. How was the study carried out? Right? Okay. Who participated? What tools were used? Okay. Super. Now, I answered those questions and I have this list, right? That it is. Now, the results. You have to write the reports. You have to report the main findings. usually with data or figures. Yeah. In that way, you have to answer these key questions. What did the study find? What evidence supports the claims? If you answer that, be sure that you're gonna have the function, okay? And then the discussion or conclusion, D. So, interpret the main findings, usually with data or figures, right? And the discussion interprets the results and connect them to existing research, right? And what do the results mean? You answer that and you will have the discussion and the conclusion. How can they be applied as well, right? And what are the limitations? Light, what are the limitations, right? That is what you need to do. Only that, okay? So this is a very nice chart that you can use, and obviously you can take a picture if you want, or you can copy, I don't know, in order to get, or you can ask by the telephones that are in the chat in vivo in YouTube, so you can ask for the presentation, okay? So that is the way. Strategies, how to understand papers. This is very easy. There are some steps that you need to follow, and those steps are strategies that you need to work with. So you have to skim, scan, predict, infer, and summarize. Yes. What is skimming? What is scanning? What is predicting? What is inferring? And what is summarizing? This is very important in order to understand a scientific article. The first step is to skim. Skimming. What is skimming? It is to get the general idea quickly. To get just an overview, right? That is skimming, right? Escanear. Well, not scanning. To have an overview. It means to read the abstract and first sentences of each paragraph. Skimming means first to read the abstract in order to know what the reading is about. Paragraphs. Yes, that helps you to understand what the book or paper work is about, works about. Once you do the skimming, you can continue with the scanning. What is scanning? To find the specific information. To look for the specific information means to find the data, the keywords, or the name of researchers, everything which is important in this paperwork. So you have to scan, okay? Once you did it, you start predicting. You have to anticipate the content based on headings and keywords. Once you have already read the sentences of each paragraph, and also you found the data, keywords, and name of researchers, you can anticipate the content based on headings and keywords. Yes, you read the keywords, you read the heads. Okay, I think that this is about this, right? That is what you need to do when you are inferring. And finally, it's summarizing. Wait, inferring. First one was predicting. Once we have predict, so go to inferring. I'm telling you again, when you are predicting, you have to anticipate the content based on headings and keywords. For that purpose, you need to use what the section will discuss before reading it fully. Yes, and when you have to infer, you need to understand meaning from context. I mean, increasing cortisol levels, stress-related effects, right? So that is an example. And finally, the summarizing. You have to restate main points in your own words. For example, write 3-4 sentences summarizing summary of the article's finding. Yes, so that is the way in which you are going to read and get a good comprehension of any academic paper. First to skim to get you an idea, reading the abstract, to scanning to locate the specific information, predicting to anticipate the contents based on headings, to infer means to understand the meanings from context, and to summarize, to writing the main points in your own words. Okay? That is what you need to do when you talk about reading comprehension of scientific articles. Okay? Those are the steps you need to follow for that. Common difficulties for readers. Oh Lord, what happens? Okay, so the first and the most common difficulty, if I can say that, is a technical vocabulary. Okay, the technical vocabulary. This is jargon. Sorry, that is a mistake. We're talking about the methodology and empirical evidence. We're talking about the technical vocabulary, right? Why it is very difficult? Because sometimes we don't understand that. And we need to look for it at the dictionary. We need to look for it and trying to understand in context, maybe, because there are ways of understanding, right? The first one is understanding in context, and the second one is to understand by specific words. And you need to work that. Complex sentence structures with passive voice. Yes, with passive voice and nominalization. Sometimes we don't understand because some sentences are written in passive voice. So you need to know that passive voice is a way in which writers use a lot that grammar structure. In that way, the conclusion, the action is the most important part in the passive voice. So it goes at the very beginning, and the person who did it is not important. So sometimes it can be named or not. Okay, so that is the passive voice and normalization. Dense information, yes. What happened with dense information? This is presented through tables, figures, and citations. Most of the time, dense information is all those charts that you have, all data that you have, obviously in tables, figures, pictures. I mean, maybe some statistical information that sometimes is kind of difficult to understand. That is called dense information. Okay. Implicit arguments. Implicit arguments. What is an implicit argument? Results that are not always clearly stated because they are implicit, right? So readers must interpret them. Yeah. So sometimes we don't have the information there. We need to work and understand and infer the result. In that way, it is kind of difficult to understand, but you can do it, right? You can do it. So that is the way you need to work with. Please don't forget that, because that is what you need to understand about how difficult could be to understand some paper, scientific articles or paper works, okay? Now, developing comprehension skills. Yes, how you are going to improve, how you are going to make your understanding in reading better. That is what we are going to work now. First, you need to understand that activating your prior knowledge is very important, okay? What does it mean? What it means that activating prior knowledge? It means that you need to know in advance the topic about what you can write, okay? That you can read, sorry. So you need to think, you need to look for information, you look to learn in advance, have a little knowledge about the topic you are going to read, okay? Think about what you already know about the topic that it is. Take notes. That is important. You have to highlight key terms, definitions, and results. Yes, highlight key terms, definitions, and results. This is very important as well. Why? Because in that way you're going to understand better. Paraphrase. Yes, this is important. Even though you may think that it is just a waste of time, or it's not necessary, it is very important, because paraphrasing means that you're going to rewrite what you understood, and it is obviously a way that you will find how good you understood the paperwork, right? So that is very important, to paraphrase. Ask questions. Yes, when you are writing, when you are reading, ask questions. Who, what, why, how, so what? I mean, conclusion, so what, right? And finally, to discuss. You have to work in pairs or groups to clarify ideas and exchange interpretations if it's possible. But I have to go to the last point. What happens if you are reading alone? Oh, so you won't be able to discuss in groups to clarify ideas and exchange interpretations. So if it's not possible, no problem, don't do it. But the first four is something that you need to do. Why? Because in that way you are going to start understanding better and better and better. Obviously, I'm talking about these steps in order to make you follow, or to introduce you to the understanding or comprehension of scientific articles, right? So if you got experience, this is something that you're gonna do it like this. I mean, very fast, and because you got experience. But if not, try to follow these steps, because this is the best way to work with reading comprehension. Okay, don't forget that. Here I have an example. It says the study investigates the effects of sleep deprivation on cognitive performance among university students. Results show that students who slept fewer than 5 hours demonstrated a 30% decrease in attention span compared to those who slept 8 hours. So, what is the comprehension purpose of the study? who were the participants, what was found, who do the results related to real lives. So those are some questions in order to understand. What is the purpose? The purpose is to investigate the effects of sleep deprivation on cognitive performance among university students. Who are the participants? University students, right? What was found? They found that the 30%, they found that the students who slept less than 5 hours have a 30% decrease in attention, right? How the results relate to real life. So compare to those who slept 8 hours. So that is real life, yes, because they started with a researching and they found that, and it's true. When you just sleep 5 hours or less, you are not with all your skills and the capacity to understand in 100% what you want to study. Yeah, because your attention has decreased 30%, because you feel tired, because you don't feel comfortable, you feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes you feel angry because you didn't sleep very well, so you feel angry. And all those steps, makes you have a decrease in attention. Yes, yeah, because you're sleepy as well, right? So that is. So think about it. Now, we have some strategies for publishing in international journals, okay? So before working with this, do you have any question? If you have a question, just let me know. Okay, now let's continue. So when we talk about strategies for publishing in international journals, it means that we are talking about how you can write a paperwork in order to make it public in any situation, right? So, talking about these strategies, this is one of the main goals of researchers and scholars. Yes, the main purpose of researchers and scholars is to publish their findings, their researchers, in international pages, in international places. Could be magazines, obviously researching magazines. You're going to publish this in articles, in newspapers, in some other, internet places, okay? For that, you need to have a strong research, very strong research, clear academic writing. Yes, your academic writing must be clear and with experience, knowledge of the publication process. Yes, you need to know, you need to get the knowledge of how you can do that, how you can do the publication, right? And the last one, the awareness of international standards in scholarly communication. Yes, you need to focus as well in the international standards of scholarly communication, because there is a way to write in your country and another completely different way to write for the whole world. So they may have some differences, not all, but they may have. So you need to know that, how to write internationally, so you won't have any problem. Okay? So keep in mind all of this process. Now, to understand the publication process. And most of the places, journals, or maybe, I don't know, magazines, researching magazines, guidelines, I don't know, any other one, newspapers, have a process that are equal, if I can say that, or similar, okay? And the first step is to write a manuscript. Yes, you have to write and format your paper according to the journal's guidelines for authors. Yes, first you need to know what are the journal guidelines, how you need to write, and then you have to start writing that according to those rules. So I told you, in any place they have different ways of, or different rules for writing. So please don't forget that. So first, find out the information of where you have to write. Once you have the guidelines, you have to start working with the manuscript. I mean, you have to prepare your writing. Once you finish your writing, you have to upload your manuscript to the online system. I mean, you have to send your research paper to the online system of the journal, if you want, or of the magazine, which accepted your publishing. Okay. Now, once you have submitted, you're gonna start for the peer review. You have to wait for the peer review. What is a peer review? Sorry, I'm gonna turn on the light, okay? Yeah, that is better. We have the light turned on. So when we talk about the peer review, it means that the head of the journal, of the magazine, etc., will evaluate the quality, the originality, and clarity of your paper. That's why I told you the quality. You need to look for information, to back up information, to look for find out information in other books, in other articles, etc., in order to how can I tell you, in order to support your paperwork, right? And now it says evaluate the clarity and originality. Obviously, it has to be original. Nobody, it must not be a copy, right? You have to look for the clarity because they're going to check the clarity. And when we talk clarity, means how clear you are writing. So it had to be very well understanding, right? That it is. And obviously, originality means that if you're going to use some specific authors to support your ideas, you need to cite references. Do not forget, never forget that, okay? Once they follow those steps and they realize that everything is well done, they're gonna send you again back in order to see, maybe you may need to make some changes based on reviewers' comments. Yes, they will send you back your paperwork and they will tell you these parts need to be reviewed. Obviously, they won't tell you what to do. They won't tell you, okay, this part you need to write this and this and this. No, because that's not the way they're gonna submit you back the paperwork. They are gonna send you back because there are some, I don't know, places it needs to be reviewed, it needs to be checked. So you are going to find there in the page number 5, the second article is not well clear, please check, just that. What do you mean by this page, right? So you need to check, understand their observation, their comments, and then redo it again, rewrite it again, okay? Then, after you checked one more time and redo it again, and when you are completely sure that now everything is well done, you have to send it back again, and they are going to read and accept for being published. Yes, after it is approved, after the approval, your article will be edited and published online or in print. Yes, once you follow all those steps, and once you finish with all the reviews, once it is accepted, they will tell you, your article is well done and it is ready to be published. It will be published online in this pages, or this will be printed and it will be distributed to all research places in order to be read. So that will be the last step. So this is the way you have to work with the article or the paperwork you want to be published internationally. Even though if it's national, it goes in the same way, because you're gonna follow the same steps, okay? The same steps. Now, something important. In order to have your paper published, you need to look for the right journal. I mean, if you look for any journal, maybe that journal is not the good one because it is not related with the area of your article, right? So it won't be a good idea to send to that journal to your article to be published. So you need to choose the right journal in order to increase your chances of acceptance. Yes. How you are going to choose a good journal, a good I don't know, magazine. Obviously, research magazine, right? Some criteria that you have is the scope and audience. Oh, so what you are writing must match with the journal's field. That's what I told you. If you are writing about linguistics, you have to look for a journal related to linguistic information. If you are writing about researching related to medicine, you need to look for some journals that are working with medicine, with health, so they can publish your paperwork, right? So you look always for the scope and the audience, okay? Also look for the reputation and the impact factor of the journal. Yes, you need to look if the journal has a very high reputation, so it is the right to send your article to be published. In other ways, is that journal recognized in the area of your paperwork? So I told you, if it's linguistic, it must be a journal in the linguistic area. If it's engineering, it must be a journal related to engineering, right? So it has to go with the right journal. Indexing. What do I mean by indexing? The web of the sign, right? Of signs. So you need to check. You need to check if it's the right journal by checking the indexing, right? So the scopus, the web, right? Oh yes, you check, you look for the information. This is the right journal I need to. The review time, this is very important. How long does the journal take in order to check the peer review? Some of them will take 1 month, some of them 2 weeks, some of them 1 week, some of them 3 months, I don't know. So you have to check for the review time, and according to that, you have to think and choose the best one. If you want your article to be published right now, you have to look for the peer review time, right? Open access policy. This is very important. If it's free to publish, or you have to pay for the fee, right? So that is the taxes that it may have to be published. Most of the time it doesn't have, it is free because you're showing information, new research to the world, so it's free. But there are some specific pages that obviously they need you to pay a fee, right? I mean the taxes that they need to be paid, but they don't want to pay, so you need to pay, but the rest is free. Some of them work with that fee, but some others, everything is completely free. So you need to look also for that, because maybe you don't want to spend money, or you can't spend money, but you need your paperwork to be published. So this is very important. Okay, so the access policy, you have to read the access policy as well. Let's talk about the key writing tips. Yes, the key writing tips. Write with clarity and academic style. Yes, formal vocabulary. Please don't forget formal vocabulary. Avoid contractions and slangs and personal opinions. In an academic paper, academic writing, you must not write personal opinions. It is not good to do that. I mean, if you write a personal opinion, you are not writing an academic writing, academic research. No. So please avoid personal opinions. That is the first and the most important step, okay? Use data or passive voice appropriately. Yeah, correctly, in other words. Data were collected, right? Data were collected, because data is plural, okay? Data is plural. Data is singular data, plural, so were, not was. So please use passive voice correctly. Why I'm talking about passive voice? Because passive voice is the grammar structure, the most common grammar structure that you need to use when you work with paper research papers, sorry. It is the most common. Why? Because it is the most appropriate one, the grammar structure that best fit in the way of writing. Okay, and you're gonna find a lot of passive voice in newspapers, in articles. Just go and write and buy a newspaper if you can buy, or just look for the internet, go for an online newspaper, and just look for the editing, for example. You're going to find a lot of passive voice, because that is more clearly, it avoids using personal information, using first person, it avoid that. So passive voice is the grammar structure, the best grammar structure to be used in research papers, okay? Follow always the IMRD structure: introduction, method, results, and discussions, okay? Follow always that. That's the best way. Another key writing tips: use transition and connectors to improve coherence. Yes, always. It's a must. You have to use connectors in contrast, as a result, moreover, thus, but the formal connectors, the formal linking words, okay? This one is also important. Be concise and precise. Yes, you need to be clear. You need to go to the point, okay? That's what it means. Be sure that consistency in terminology, tense, and formatting. I mean, you have to be completely sure about what you are doing goes in the right way with the words. I mean, using the correct words, using the correct tense, and look for the format rules that the journal needs you to write the paper. It's not your format, it's the format that the journal uses, okay, for doing this, okay? So please don't forget that. Academic honesty is crucial for international publication. I'm going to tell you once again. Honesty is very important if you want to make an international publication. You need to avoid plagiarism. Please, one more time. We're talking about academic English writing, okay? Academic writing articles. Even though you can do it in Spanish or in English, you need to follow these steps. Always paraphrase and cite sources properly. One thing is to avoid plagiarism, I mean to cite. And another very, very different is to cite properly. When I told you properly, means that you need to use the APA way for citing, for doing the references. But I have to tell you this, but you need to look for the rules of the journal rules. If the journal rules doesn't contemplate the APA information, the APA references, and they use another kind of references, international reference, I know. So you need to use that way of citing your sources or do the references. So you need to look for that information and write according to the rules of the journal, okay? There it is. Use recognized citation styles. APA is the most important. Could be the MEL, MLA, the Chicago, or another journal's format. I told you the journal's format are the ones that will tell you how to work with it. Check your work with plagiarism detection. What is that? I will tell you. There are some softwares that can work with plagiarism. I mean, you install or you get that software, could be Grammarly, could be Turnitin, could be iAuthenticate, any of them or some others that you can find. You upload there your paperwork, and they are going to analyze and tell you if you are doing plagiarism. If not, you are fine, right? If it says yes, you need to check, because maybe you forgot to cite something. So you need to recheck again before sending, obviously, right? Make sure references are recent, relevant, and correctly formatted. This is a rule, okay, that your reference must be for recent books. I mean, they were editing recently. It's correct, but sometimes it's not possible because, for example, you need to cite Piaget. That is not very recent, right? You need to go, or maybe Vygotsky, I don't know. That's very old. So, but you need to. So do it, but try to look for recent investigation, researches, books that are recently published. And the most important, to be relevant. If you want me to tell you if its relevance is better than recent or actual or currently books, I can tell you that relevant is more important, because you can use relevant information, but that information source can be from a book from, I don't know, 1970s or 1980s or 1990s, right? So if it's relevant, it's necessary, so do it. There will be no problem. But try to use for recent information. And correctly formatted, yes, the format is important, as I told you, okay? After submitting your article, you will receive feedback from reviewers. This is called peer review, and how you respond is very important. Read all comments carefully and don't take criticism personally. I mean, if they tell you this is wrong because of this, you need to check again. Don't say, oh, no, they don't know more than me because I am doing the information. No, please don't take it personally and accept and check, because the people who are checking are with a lot of experience about this. Prepare always a response letter addressing each comment clearly and respectfully. In other ways, you have to redo it and prepare a letter saying that you already have checked and improved the parts that you had to. You have to highlight the changes you made in the revised manuscript. Yes, highlighting, because in that way you are saying that you corrected, okay? If you disagree with a reviewer, explain politely and with evidence. Why? Because sometimes the people who are checking don't understand very well what you did. So you need to again explain that what you write, what you are writing is correct, and you have to add some evidence. But to avoid that, you need to write clearly, to go to the point. In that way, you won't do that, okay? That is very important. Obviously, once everything is done, you're gonna have your paperwork published. And for that, you need to attend to academic conference, to share your work. You have to use research networking platforms, because you're gonna have some discussions, some maybe workshops, etc. Right? And you're gonna have your paper in those places. Google Scholar, Academia Edu. So you have to collaborate with the international authors by strengthening your articles' credibility, right? That is important. And obviously, promote your publication ethically through LinkedIn or university websites, not any place, because it is a scholar paper, okay? That is very important. If the papers are rejected, it's because of poor English or unclear writing. It is not followed by international standard, out of scope. Yes, the topic doesn't match with the journal's focus. That's why you need to look for the right journal. A weak methodology, you need to look for the correct research, okay? Or maybe the data you look for is not as strong. That's why you need to look for more information, always, and with sightings. Lack of originality, because it is not innovative, or maybe incorrect format. You didn't follow the author guidelines or citation style, right? That it is. Summary of key strategies. This is important. So writing, language, ethic, submission, revision, and networking, starting with the preparation, obviously. So read and analyze the articles in your target journal. Follow the introduction, methodology, result, and discussion. Use formal language. Go to the point, please. Be ethic. Do not work with plagiarism. Follow the guidelines of the author carefully. Respond politely and recheck it. Okay? That is the way you need to work if you want to publish an international journal. This is just a summarizing of what we did previously. Okay? If you follow these steps, be sure that your article will be submitted and will be published by an international journal. Well, we finish here with the seminar. I hope you understood everything correctly, and better, I hope all the information I had for you will be useful for all what you need to do. Okay? Any comments, anything you may ask, or if you want, we can work with another seminar later on. Thank you very much for your cooperation, for your examples. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Emily. Thank you very much. Have a very wonderful day. Thanks to all of you for participating and being in this beautiful seminar. And I will see you later on. Have a very good day. Goodbye.